everybody ready? Oh, you want, here. So? The Board of Education acknowledges that we are on the traditional territories of the Comox First Nation. We would like to thank them for the privilege of living on their land and the gift of working with their children. We're calling this meeting to order at 7 o'clock, Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, regular board meeting of the Board of Education of Comox Valley Schools. The next item, take a breath. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Trustee Kate.
I'd like to move the agenda with the following amendment, that the Board of Education of School District 71 amend the agenda to consider item 11A, Indigenous Education Council terms of reference immediately following the equity scan update.
Seconded by Trustee Maysack. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda? And that's been approved. And now I'm looking for a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Trustee Kate. And I have lost one of my pages of my agenda. There it is. Okay. No, I've got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I should pull my agenda out because there's so much of it. And I didn't pull it all out. Next, adoption of the board meeting minutes. Trustee McConnell-King.
Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt the November 25th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes as presented.
And seconded by Trustee Aldinger. Seeing no hands raised for errors or omissions. All those in favor? And I see no opposition, so that's carried. A record of in-camera meeting minutes, November 25th, 2025, regular in-camera meeting. And before we move on to our presentation, which is next, I just want to welcome everyone to the meeting tonight and share that Trustee Leslie is with us virtually on the screen. Sometimes we will see her and sometimes we won't. She's participating fully in the meeting in the way which she can with us tonight. It's great to see you, Trustee Leslie. And Vice Chair Howe isn't able to be here tonight, and she sends her regrets. And now we will move on to presentations and ask our Associate Superintendent, Joe Heslop, to walk us through the equity scan update.
Thank you. Would you like me to stand or sit? Trustees, yeah.
Whatever your preference. Trustee Leslie, can you see our Assistant Superintendent if he's sitting? Oh, I saw the camera move.
Hello, Susan.
Never mind. Question asked and answered.
Thumbs up. It's good to see you walking. Jealous. Okay, before I begin, I'd also like to acknowledge the Pentlatch, the Ikes, and the Shawflut and Sasitla. And I'm going to speak to you today about the equity scan. So much to speak about. This is a picture taken right in this room, sort of sitting in the circle of where the community has met here. We've had 6 meetings so far, including hereditary families, chief and council, representatives, elders, Mikisew, IEC, trustees, CUPE, CDTA, CDTA and PVPA. One of the things that I want to mention right off the bat is that we spent several months building relationships with folks, and that includes DPAC as well as those that I listed above, and took the time necessary to build relationship. You can't get good data without being in relationship. And I just want to thank Chetty McDonald for some early advice, really good advice when I was first hired here. Had some ideas of my own as to how long this would take, and so pleased to be reminded by community that these things take their time, and we're moving according to the speed of the rights holders. So when we're honoring those reciprocal relationships, from this time last year to March, April, right up in this space here, rather than taking the equity scan questions that were designed by other folks, these folks created 187 questions for 7 banks of questions, and developed those questions thoughtfully. And then in April of last year, created the school-based equity scanning teams, mirroring what happens up here at each of the schools, having CDTA representatives, PVPA, CUPE, and asking Indigenous support workers if they want to be a part of this, not telling them you must. That's respectful. Lots of information out to partners. As you can see in here, this was an email that went out to one of the school-based teams, ensuring that we have cultural safety resources, ways of being, how to have these tough kinds of conversations with all staff. Just want to say, when I worked at the Ministry of Education, we often heard of points of conflict because we're not talking about easy things here, but we did not have one call of a complaint throughout this entire process, throughout the school district. And so my hands go up to all of the partners that we were able to meet with and create relationship with. And it's so great to see folks working together respectfully throughout the district. However, while we have emails, lots of them, we had folks tell us, and Susan, thank you very much for your idea, that it's helpful to learn by video. And so as you can see, I don't love pictures or videos of myself, contrary to the evidence before you, but these were feedback provided by many folks saying this was really helpful for providing much needed information in order to guide the conversations. Janine Lindsay helped create this slide here regarding self-care. And for every single slide deck when we were doing this work, we had to continually remind ourselves that this is very challenging work for some, and it's hard work, and we have to take care of ourselves in this as well. And so there are many practical and ways to take care of ourselves. And up here, one of the council members reminded us that we should be doing some cleansing of our spirits when we do this work. And so we've had cedar brushing by Tony Frank, Tammy, and Simone Compton. We scanned Indigenous communities, the following communities, KFN and Mikisew back in May of 2025, and scanned Indigenous families up here in the fall. Lelena was with me for many of these sessions here, as well as at the Friendship Center, Wache, and the Foundry. So scanning staff, each school has had 2 staff meetings for CUPE and CDTA, and that's including a staff meeting designed specifically for the survey, and then another staff meeting for having inquiry circles. So sitting around and talking about how we respond authentically to the questions, and having that notes taken anonymously and sent directly to me. So we've had quite a few of those survey circles, or those circles that have come in. I'll share that with you in a moment. We've had 2 senior leaders and PVP sessions up here and throughout the school board office. Again, devoted to the survey and the circle. We had one session up here with Indigenous support workers. It was invite only. They did not have to come. Again, want to ensure cultural safety while we're doing this work. And so we heard from Indigenous support workers because they're right there doing this work every single day, tirelessly. And our last circle was last week up here with the trustees. So very fitting that we're wrapping things up here. Scanning Indigenous students. Folks on our district-led equity scanning team wanted kindergarten to grade 3. As you can imagine, that's very sensitive data, very difficult to get right. So luckily, we have geniuses on the scanning team, and they gave us age-appropriate questions, and we sat down on the carpet, we sat with kids, and took notes as discreetly as we could on our laps. And then, of course, the large portion of our data was from grades 4 to 12 with individual surveys as well as the inquiry circles. And I think just this afternoon, I have another school, so 12 schools have provided us data from the inquiry circles. As well, students showed up at some of the community conversations. And these were the questions for students. What does student success mean to you? What does it look and feel like? Do you feel the school staff know, understand, and honor your unique gifts as an Indigenous student? Are you learning about local First Nations, Inuit, Métis culture, history, ways of being in all of your classes? Can you provide examples? And have you experienced or witnessed bias, discrimination, and or racism at school? And was it addressed, and were you satisfied with the outcome? Really interesting data from kids. And lastly, what do you wish adults in your school knew about your experience as an Indigenous student? So these 4 questions that we have here, you're going to notice, I've got some slides I'll quickly fly through, but these questions were designed by the team to be asked of trustees, of students, of all staff from wherever we are, so that we're able to see themes throughout the data as to how we answered question number 3, question number 4, question number 1. And number 5 is special, that's for them. So some quantitative data analysis that we have done so far, looking through district programs, Indigenous versus non-Indigenous, the suspensions, attendance, completion rates, academic streaming, foundational skills assessment data, and that will inform our final report as well. This is just, as I mentioned, an inquiry circle with the principals. So you see that it's very similar to that first question that we asked students. Same with question number 2. What have you done to seek out information to ensure teachers are approaching Indigenous content in a culturally sensitive way? Again, the bias and discrimination, racism question. And have we witnessed, heard, or experienced? And what did we do about this? So it'll be really interesting data to see how we think we did versus how students feel and how the community feels we've done with that. So this has now wrapped up as of last Friday. Can no longer submit data. And that means we're moving from phase 1 to phase 2, where we are now reviewing the responses of that data, and it is a lot. We're going to get to that, but just a reminder that we have, upon the direction of the local community, have provided Indigenous students with $10 gift cards to Indigenous local businesses for this, and had a whole process to ensure that no student got 2 and no student got none if they wanted to, but no student was made to do the survey either. It's got to feel authentic. So here are the responses. 1,542 responses, and the average time to complete the survey was 45 minutes. That's beautiful data. That means that, I've heard from some folks in the ministry, the student learning survey, sometimes people will go through there and it'll be like 3 minutes of just click, 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 or there'll be a race to see who can get through the fastest. So this is purposeful data. And again, kudos to the teams who did this work in the schools, sitting down with students, working with them, again, working with staff as well. So you see we have 329 Indigenous elementary students, 232 secondary students, 139 parents or guardians of Indigenous students, community members, 38 of them, 531 teachers. That's including NIDES, 50 principals, vice principals, 189 QP, and 23 from senior management, trustees, IEC, etc. So lots of good data. Pretty easy to pour through all that. That's where we're at now. We're at the data sifting rate. So I just couldn't give you an update without having just some data to show you. So this was from elementary students. If you're Indigenous, if your school had an Indigenous support room, do you feel safe and comfortable going to that space? And you see that 91% say yes. We're really curious about the no and the unsure and want to know more about that. Similar stats for secondary. And when we were presenting this to the IEC, I think Lelena had said, it'd be interesting to know when Indigenous students say that they're comfortable here, wonder how they feel in the halls, in the bathrooms, by the lockers, whatever that might be. And luckily for us, we have that data as well. And so we'll be able to compare that 91%, that 89% versus how do they feel in the library, in their classroom. That's really important data. So we have 2 more meetings this year. February the 13th, Friday the 13th, we will be meeting up here again, and we will be going over some of the preliminary themes we're finding after sifting through those mountains of data. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, and we are excited to dig into that and be moving towards those recommendations where ultimately there will be a report. We'll be able to go over that report, and the district or the community-led team will be providing us with some, I don't want to say marching orders, but just some really clear directions that we need to move. And we all know that this is going to take time. It took time to collect the data. It's going to take time to interpret it and then to act on it. And we need to move boldly, resolutely, and purposefully, patiently as well. And I think that is where we end my portion of the presentation on equity.
Does that mean this is our opportunity to ask questions, or was there somebody else presenting?
Well, I know there's something else that we'll speak about terms of reference after.
After? Yeah. I was just checking to see.
Did I miss anything?
The only part I would like to add is, and you've said this before, is although we see it on the screen as phases, this whole part is moving towards equity. It's really stirred up conversation of what is equity, what is equality, and leaving classrooms and schools where the educator wants to keep those conversations going. And so although we're technically getting close to phase 3, there's that interconnectedness of equity conversations and actions are already starting to happen. And that's real exciting. And the other part that doesn't shine through in the words is the emotional process that everybody on the planning team and a lot of people who were holding space for the surveys to be done, that took in contributions to being meaningful and valued. Joe showed that slide of 45 minutes. That's a lot of time. That's longer than a lunchtime. And so a lot of effort went into this. And now for me personally, I feel excited, but equally nervous about the actions that we can recommend, but also keeping in mind that we're not moving towards an end result. This is just something we're going to keep doing, and we're going to keep checking in, and we're going to make sure that we all can be proud to say we work for an equitable school district.
Thank you.
I kind of wish that you did the slideshow now, but
So you meant by you were done your portion?
thank you very much, Chair.
Just opening up the floor for trustees to see if we have questions or comments. I see Trustee Aldinger, Trustee McConnell-Keene, and then Trustee Caton.
I'll start by saying I'm really grateful for the work that you've done. It seems incredibly thorough. For anyone who's listening to the meeting, I think we've also heard in the past that it's the first district in the province who's been entirely Indigenous, coming from community and rights holders and in our district. And for that, I'm also very appreciative. I look very forward to the follow-up, particularly in relation to what learners wish adults in the system knew about their experience as Indigenous learners. My question concerns the number of schools. Your slide said 11, and you tell us that there's an update, which is great. Were there specific schools that were chosen and asked to have these inquiry circles with students, or was it a matter of all schools asked and some had greater, it may be capacity, it may be students were more vulnerable in some schools and less interested in taking part in the inquiry circles, but I'm curious how that part was envisioned and implemented.
Really thoughtful question. Thank you. And you can correct me if I get any of this wrong, but I recall that we wanted to ensure that we had representation from all schools. And so the expectation was that we were to have equity, provide opportunities for the school-based equity scanning teams to have, to provide opportunities for students at all schools to input their data individually, confidentially. And if your school-based team felt that, again, making sure that they're in consultation with Indigenous folks in the room, Indigenous staff, Indigenous support worker, that it felt like a culturally safe place, and the capacity you mentioned and other issues, that that this could be done in a good way, in a reciprocal way, where it didn't feel like another task, another ask, that they would have those inquiry circles on top of, as an addition, but it was not mandatory. We didn't think it was safe to say every school must do this by this date, because that's almost in contrary to the nature of the thoughtfulness that went into making the questions. So I'm thrilled with the number that we currently have. I'm quite certain we'll have more, but we could have a full stock and maybe have done some great harm by that. Did I miss anything?
Right. Thank you.
I was just curious, perhaps in keeping with what you had just said around that this work is not destination oriented by any means, that I think you shared with us when we met in our scan that there are districts in our province who are now like re-scanning in their process. And I was just curious if you see, is that something also because of your prior role to joining us in the district, is that something you see as being sort of when the community asks, when it would, like how does that work, and when would a district say it's time now that we rescan, as opposed to never putting the work down? I'm just curious how that would look and
You're saying something
they would be doing.
my heart in many ways.
They're doing.
Data is great when it happens once. As we know, that's baseline data. And it's greater when you're able to revisit in a few years. And I also like part of your question that said when the rights holders want it to, right? So everything we do in this needs to get a thumbs up from hereditary leaders and from chief and council as well, to say, what do you think? Is 4 years from now a good time to do this again? Is it shorter, longer? What do you think? We take our directions from them. That's my recommendation. I would like to see where we're at. I'd like to ask the same questions and have that, and see where we are and really be able to mark that. And boy, what I really like is that districts are doing this on their own accord without me working at the ministry anymore. You often wonder if this works out. And, when we're working on the ESLR report, but so many people that work on those reports for the ministry often cite back to their equity scan, because that was such a great way of getting data. But it's kind of useless if you just sit on it and say, we did it once.
Yeah. Thanks.
Trustee Caden?
my question was asked already, but I do want to ask a follow-up regarding the definition of inclusive, equitable education within the school district. Because you can have 5 or 6 people in a room and you can ask them and they'll all come with a different answer. And you have 5 students in the room and you give them each a box depending on that is equitable, is that inclusive education. So I guess my inquiry and my wondering is, we take that information and then how do we then apply it within our educational system? Because that's something I think we've been trying to do for a number of years and still haven't gotten it yet. So what equitable to one student may not be to another student, and how do we work that together and moving forward so that all students feel that they're included in that, whatever. So that's just the big ask, because over my years, it's a question that we've been trying to, over the number of years, how do we do that? How do we define that? How do we go forward? We take this and the what next. So I guess my question is, you take that and what next to ensure that we're following through on what the outcome is what we're learning, so.
Wow, so much to that question, and thanks for the hardballs. Yeah, I'm gonna answer a bit of it, and then I'm gonna look over and see what you think about that answer, and if you want to add on to it as well. I think it's such a deep answer. We could spend the rest of the night talking about that question. And I think what I would say is resisting the urge to go to the uniform and equal. Like systems like ours really gravitate towards that one size fits all for what's most convenient. Or I've got a visual of a bell curve, it's like these students right here, or these adults right here. It's really asking you said it in your question, each person has their own idea of what is equity, right? What is equitable? And what's right for me as a learner is going to be different than what's right for Sean. And what I'm going to need, it might be more supports in certain ways than others. And I think it's us as a system having the curiosity and the humility to not jump to, well, I've got the answers, or I've got the good enough answer. I think that's the enemy of equity, is the good enough answer for most of our kids. That's what I would say. If you want to jump in.
And thank you for going first, because it makes it easier, because you could go in many different directions with the answer. But where I would like to utilize the short amount of time to answer is, inequity is when you don't see yourself reflected in the curriculum or the ways of understanding, knowing, being, and the pedagogy that is delivered in alignment with the place and the people that we're serving. And so when we don't hear the voices whose ancestors have come from these places, when we don't hear the voices of those that are attending our schools, when we don't hear the voices of those that we want to be fully educated by the time they finish our grade 12 system, then we're behind on what equity could look like. Because my son, who's in grade 10 now, reminds me quite often about, Mom, it's not that I don't want to learn about other places in the world or other people's histories or things like that. It's just, that's not only what I want to learn. And so recognizing that he would like to see himself reflected and his ancestors' history and the place that we're visitors here. We're in Toronto. We come from the other side of the mountains and we come here. And when we come here, we know that we want to learn how to be good guests here. And so that's the kind of mindset that I think about, not for me to say what equity is, but to pay attention to those that are telling us what equity is and how we can learn and teach and do this stuff together.
Thank you. Superintendent?
I just wanted to make a comment. I hope I'm not adding to something that you've said, Lelena, because that would change things because you usually add to what I've said. So, but I just wanted to say, well, one, I think I would also just chip in on that question that, like, our purpose statement articulated in our strategic plan is to create safe, equitable learning environments that lift each learner to grow and to share their own unique gifts. And I think that's where I think the equity scan and the actions, like, people will help us move towards. I just wanted to thank Joe, Lalena, Chetty, and Jeannie as leaders in the Indigenous Education Department for modeling an old way in a new context. And I think what I'm grateful for is that the equity, the work towards a more equitable system doesn't start with the recommendations. It started with the way in which this work was done. And so really grateful for the learning by observing the way in which work can take place. And just wanted to share that the way that this has happened is part of the action. And just wanted to express my gratitude to the staff that were that it was community-led and staff-supported, and those specific supports of that staff was really critical, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. So now we're going to move on to the amended portion of the agenda, moving the receipt of the Indigenous Education Council Terms of Reference as the next agenda item. We're fortunate tonight to have Keisha Everson here with us, the Indigenous Education Council Chair, and welcome. And I just, pardon me? You feel good. We'll move that magic camera. So what I'm hoping is that a trustee can move the motion, we can second the motion, and then we can have opportunity for discussion. Trustee Maystack?
I'd like to move that the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley receive the IEC Terms of Reference as presented.
Thank you, and seconded by Trustee Alringer. Thank you. And I'm going to open up the floor for questions and or comments. I want to thank you for arranging your schedule to be here with us tonight. It's been many years, I think, that since the terms of reference have come to the table of the Board of Education at a regular meeting. So it's a great opportunity for us tonight to have you with us. And I know that there are a couple of questions that we have, and I have one from Vice Chair Howe, who wasn't able to be here tonight. And her question is, are there any areas of the terms of reference that you feel could be strengthened or clarified to better support meaningful co-governance and reconciliation?
In the terms of reference themselves.
Yeah.
At the Finesse conference a couple weeks ago, a number of us were able to attend, and with the introduction of Bill 40 and the introduction of a distinction-based approach to education, meaning centering and prioritizing the rights holders of the land and territories that you're on. I've had a few conversations since the first weekend in December, well, not very long ago, with a few members of the IEC talking about the importance of not, the term they used was watering down, but not losing the voices of the rights holders who sit on the IEC and who have appointed seats on the IEC. So, like, I sit on the IEC as a parent rep, and now as the chair, but I'm not sitting there as a representative explicitly of the Comox First Nation, despite being a member. So there's these distinctions in defining who are the rights holders, and we need for quorum and all these different like little bits to it that could potentially maybe be massaged and returned to as the equity scan comes more to light, and as we have further conversations. We've filled out our membership of parent reps at our last meeting, and are still looking to fill one more seat. So we have a number more voices at that table and wanting to make sure that the voice of this land is not lost. That's essentially what kind of is at the back of my mind right now. And I know it's been brought forward by a few folks already since just that one conference.
Thank you. Trustee Leslie, did you have a question that you'd like to ask? I can't see your hand raised. I have to look away from the camera when I look at you. Did you wish to ask a question? You're muted. So we can't hear you though. Oh, you're doing the magic with, you got your magic phone, don't you? We still can't hear you. I know that, oh, we still can't hear you. Sorry. I think I know that Susan had sent me,
Number 4.
pardon?
She's Campbell.
Oh, number 4, okay. She did send me the question, so I will find it on my phone. See if I can find it. But if any other trustee has a question or a comment while I'm looking, Trustee Caton.
I just had a question regarding professional development. On that one there, when I read it, I'm just curious, as the professional development, is that district or is that outside the district? I was just curious, as I know that in the past, professional development included going to many conferences and going to workshops on that one there. So when I read this one here, I was just, I guess in clarification, does that mean within our district or is that outside the district? It's like, what do you mean that professional development on that one there? Because I thought my hope would be more inclusive within our school district, coming to a lot of our professional, when appropriate. But I'm talking about FINESC and maybe other issues. So I was just curious about that.
I know that the invitation very often goes out to IEC to attend professional development opportunities that have been brought forward to Indigenous Education Department. For example, an invitation was extended to attend Ladders to Kindness with Shelley Joseph. Sorry, I was going to look at Lelena to ask for writing the name, but I remembered it. Ladders to Kindness with Shelley Joseph. That was in September? I can't remember. It was a couple months ago. And that invitation went out to all of our IEC as a professional development opportunity on anti-racism and inclusion. So those kinds of opportunities, I believe, come up fairly regularly. I know the opportunity with Misha's last name, Misha Oken, came forward and went out to all of the IEC as well. So these opportunities are very often in district, and we really love and really appreciate being included in those conversations, because people that sit on our council are from many different backgrounds, not just in education, but they are parents and professionals in their own right, and it's really great to be included in that work.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. And I'm going to read Trustee Leslie's question, and I'll go to Trustee Aldinger. So through the lens of the terms of reference, what does the IEC see as the gaps that need to be addressed in terms of Indigenous learners in our school district?
I've been thinking about this one since Joe sent it to me last week, and the gaps. Maybe Equity Scan is going to see us a lot, show us many of the gaps that exist. There's many conversations about attendance, about the adult dogwood, the racism of low expectations that we see in the hard data, the quantitative data of attendance scores, of graduation rates, of students that are being funneled into or pushed towards an adult dogwood, or even an evergreen, like leaving school and not being set up for based on their background and this racism of low expectations. So that is a systemic gap, I would say, across the province, and one that also exists in our school district.
Trustee Aldinger.
Thank you. I had the pleasure and opportunity to attend the last IEC meeting as the rotating trustee, so not the designated trustee for the year. The rest of us get to rotate in twice if we're lucky. And I'm just wondering, my take is the role on that given day is one largely of observation and learning. But I'm curious about any feedback you have as to whether that is not the bold vision of a rotating trustee that you're looking for.
Yeah, with Susan stepping away from being the sitting member sitting trustee sitting on the IEC, there was a decent amount of conversation around that question that came from this body of what would the IEC like to do, and ultimately we decided not to amend our terms of reference and move forward as it stands. The idea with that was to have a consistent face, that face now being Christopher Sack, who can come to all of our meetings, hopefully, provided that the ferries are running, and can build those relationships and be able to bring and understand the consistent narrative of IEC, the flow, the new issues, regular ongoing standing conversations that are happening, and be able to have that consistency for us as a council, and also be able to bring that report back on a regular basis. But still wanting to build relationships with the trustees. That's been one of our hopes and our goals for this school year, is to build relationships between our two bodies, and having a rotating face there means that we get to see each of you a little bit more regularly. So there was argument and merit for having two rotating seats instead of having one consistent, one rotating. And ultimately that was kind of the call.
Thank you. Trustee Maisat.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us tonight. We really appreciate it, so thank you. I'm curious, when you read through these terms of reference, how you're feeling about the work and how we're moving forward, and if you can share a little bit about that compared to maybe, say, years past. How are you feeling with things moving forward with the board, with our senior leadership team, and with everything in general? How are you feeling about it in reference to your terms of reference? I'm curious.
So the terms of reference, I've been on the IEC, then this is my third school year, I believe. I'm going into my third school year. My first 2 years, I sit on as the 0 to 5 parent rep. I have 2 kiddos that started, and one is still at the Comox Valley Aboriginal Head Start program. And I just came to the fall AGM just to see what was what, and then left a member. Just kind of like another meeting last spring, where it's like I went in and then I came out and I was co-chair, and I was like, how did that happen? And then now I'm talking to you today as the chair. So for me, in my very, very short time, I would say sitting on the council, I have seen a ridiculous amount of change, and that is echoed by members of the IEC who have been sitting at that table and returning to that table for like literally 20 years. And they're saying what the changes that are happening in this district right now are changes that they have been asking for decades. And I feel very, very privileged that I get to be part of this wave of change and get to be in relationship with these fine folks and bring forward our terms of reference and bring forward these ideas and get a healthy amount of table time and eye contact and smiles, and not feel like a checkbox on a list. Because would echo the thoughts of many Indigenous Education Department staff, or, sorry, friends of mine that I know, and not in their capacity as Indigenous education staff, folks that I know in the valley, by that, who have spoken to the feelings of not being seen as Indigenous people, as an Indigenous department, and the Indigenous Education Council being a face for that advocacy work. And I'm just always excited now to go to IAC meetings, and I feel like new things are happening, and like every month we move to full day meetings because we can't get everything done in 3 hours, because there's so many staff around the district, so many departments that now are actually coming to the IAC to have meaningful conversations and are not just doing a 5-minute presentation and calling it good. So it feels pretty good, and I think our terms of reference reflect that and reflect the priority that we put on making sure that we have a place on hiring panels, at meetings like this one, and have a stronger presence in the school district than has been done up to this point.
I have a question. It's a little drier. My heart's pretty full right now with listening to what was just shared. I looked at the version of the terms of reference that I had, an older version, and this version, and I didn't see. It didn't feel to me when I read it that there was a massive change in the updates. And I was thinking about Bill 40 and what Bill 40 brought opportunity for many Indigenous education councils to have the tools that they needed to create the space that they needed to do their work. And so, well, what I'm hearing from you is that there's a great shift going on in our district, but that Bill 40 didn't that we already had a good, that there already was a fairly strong terms of reference in our school district prior.
With Bill 40, school districts are now expected to have an Indigenous Education Council, and that's fairly new. And there are many districts as well that have had a Indigenous Education Council or something of a similar name. I'm thinking of School District 85, there's this First Nations Education Council. They've existed for, some of them for like literally decades. So it's not a new thing that was brought forward. The new expectation now coming from the ministry, to my knowledge, is the centering of the IEC in some of those decision-making pieces, and especially around targeted funds, our own capacity development funds, and having a stronger presence and voice in the school district.
And part of what they had provided was sample terms of reference.
There are sample terms of references that have been ours. We basically compared and contrasted and went, ours is pretty good. We're actually okay with that. I'm going to go back to the Finesse conference. I hadn't been in 8 years, so I was pretty excited to go. And I sat in on 3 different meetings or 3 different workshops that were very much targeted at Indigenous Education Council type folks. And the resounding answer that I got that I kind of walked away with was, we're way ahead of the curve. That there are Indigenous education councils that are not consulted, barely even shown the targeted funds budget, let alone being able to create a subcommittee that takes that budget with various folks in this room and breaks it down into all of its pieces and goes, what do we want for next year? They don't get that. They're fighting with their senior management to get that. Essentially, was the impression that I got. So I walked away from a lot of those meetings going, okay, we're doing pretty good. Not to say that there's still not things that we need to do. Our equity scan is already showing that word that came to mind when Joe was asked that question was education of our staff and senior management. Because that's where change happens, is teachers and with senior management. Which I think speak very plainly that Jeremy's filled some pretty awesome shoes and done some pretty great changes in my eyes. And bringing in folks like Joe and Elena to do some of that work. I don't know, you guys are really great and great changes happen, and changes that I don't think without Jeremy here would have happened.
Thank you for that. Trustee Leslie has one final question for you, because we recognize you're timed, you have a time commitment, and I'm hoping that Trustee Leslie's unmuted. And yes, we can. Go ahead, Trustee Leslie.
I think that Michelle will ask that one for you.
Asked it on behalf of her.
I think Michelle might have asked that one on your behalf.
Sorry, that's one I think you asked me to ask.
I get I'm getting more and more emails, it seems like this past 6 months, about sitting on hiring panels. I think Candace sent me an invite to a meeting on Thursday. I can't remember what, it's in my calendar. An invite to a conversation about, hiring qualifications for certain staff. So I'm seeing a big shift in my inbox, and I'm hoping that that is getting forwarded on to the IEC. And part of the changes into our terms of reference is that when we're invited to tables like sitting out with hiring panels with some of these groups, that our time is being recognized and that we're being brought there not just as a witness, but as a presence and a voice for the Indigenous students and their families that we represent. Sure.
Thank you. Very creative opportunity that we've had tonight to be able to have what felt like a really open discussion in the middle of a motion, and I think it's just emotion. I think it's just a little bit a different way of doing things, which is wonderful. So seeing no further discussion, but maybe asking Keisha, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't ask that you'd like to share before the board moves receipt of the terms of reference?
I was thinking about this in the shower. Like last night, I was going to bed and I was working on my speeches to some of these questions, and they've all flown. So I'm running out of caffeine steam. So, great. Really happy to be here and happy to have further conversations and further relationships with the school.
Very much. All those in favor of receipt if I got to find the motion. I'll read the motion again because it's been a while. That the Board of Education of School District 71 Comox Valley receive the IEC terms of reference as presented. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, now I go back to my agenda. And now we're at number 8, announcement and the board chairperson report.
I apologize. Did we
Did not.
move the equity scan?
Did not.
I'm not sure if we did. I
did not.
apologize.
Didn't vote.
And it's been a while, so I
I
apologize.
don't remember, I don't even
Second it, we didn't vote.
I think we didn't.
we didn't actually move that motion.
I can do that.
So we moved the terms of reference,
The conversation.
but we didn't
Thank
actually,
you.
we didn't actually
Good
move
night, thank you.
this motion. Well, if we did, I don't have any trustees' names beside it.
No, I
So
don't
trustee McConnell-Keen, would you like to move receipt of the equity scan update as presented?
Sure, that the Board of
Wonderful.
Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, received the equity scan update as presented.
Thank you. And trustee Eldinger, I did see your hand up as a seconder. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. All right, now we're on number 8, and it's almost 8. So I have a really quick board chairperson report, and just want to acknowledge at this time of year, and especially at this time of year, the flooding and the weather that's affected many of our colleagues across the province, and just thinking about them right now as they try to navigate December and end of year and all of the uncertainty. And while we have received much rain, I don't believe that the rain has had the significance, the immediate significance as it had in other parts of the province. And just wanting to take a moment to think about our colleagues in all of the districts that are affected. And also say that this was really lovely tonight to start the meeting in such a good way. That and then just recognizing the agenda before us, where we've got some technical pieces to navigate, some very long bylaw motions, some really important financial pieces for transparency as we do our work, and the amazing quarterly progress report, and then some reporting back. And so I'm looking forward to the rest of the meeting tonight and seeing how far we get and seeing if we may need to move a motion to extend at some point or not, because I never seem to quite get that right. And on that note, I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Yeah, thanks. It's hard to believe we had a board meeting just 3 weeks ago, and this is our light pre-winter break agenda. But just grateful to be here tonight together. I wanted to just share a couple of things, recognizing the extent of the agenda tonight. The first is on Monday morning, we concluded the 8th session of masterclass training, which was facilitated by educator and inclusion specialist Misha Oak. These sessions allowed educators from throughout the district to engage in professional learning focused on practical classroom strategies, thoughtful language choices, and reflective scenarios that support inclusive, safe, and welcoming learning environments. The work aligns closely with our strategic plan, particularly our commitments to equity, relationships, inclusion, and safe learning environments. And I just recognize that over 200 educators have have left plans for TTOCs and the amount of work that's required to even engage in a half a day of professional learning. And so just really wanted to express gratitude for the willingness, the engagement, and the effort for our educators to contribute towards the environment that we aspire where every child can thrive. I wanted to share just a recent event that occurred here in the district where our schools hosted the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Day in partnership with the Provincial Outreach Program. Students from Comox Valley, Campbell River, Parksville, and Gold River came together for a day of learning, connection, and community. And beyond practicing American Sign Language, students had the opportunity to connect with deaf role models, explore their identities, and build confidence in a supportive environment. So I just wanted to thank all the educator support staff, families, and the provincial outreach program who made this event possible. It is hard to believe, but registrations for kindergarten programs will start shortly after we return from winter break. There are expanded opportunities this year, and so we're just asking that families check out and visit the Comox Valley Schools website, as well as pay attention to some of the invites for some open houses around programs to learn more about some of the fantastic opportunities that exist. What a season for fine arts. Choir, performances, bands, skits, craft fairs, I guess feasts, school feasts, lots of school food. I guess is more of an applied skill, but just a lot of energy going into this time, and just wanting to recognize all those students who have participated in facilitating community events for their parents and others. And of course, the teaching staff and volunteers and families who have contributed their time and energy to support that. You know, I recognize that the fall, this stretch over the last bit, you mentioned some weather, can be a high energy time. People sometimes can feel their own personal energy being a little different than the needs at the moment, but just acknowledging the tremendous accomplishment of getting to this part of the school year. And I wanted to just share, I'm already excited about the return in January and the great learning and the great opportunities that will happen as we move into the longer days and into the spring. So just wanted to thank our learning community for the support and that together we are better on behalf of our students. So thank you.
I'm actually going to circle back and do a part B to my report, because I think I'd be remiss not to share that for the very first time, now that I'm retired, I attended the Everyone Deserves a Smile, I don't even know what to call it, heart-filled gymnasium full of amazing students and entertainers, and our amazing Chantel Stefan and team to participate in. I mean, I would had the presentation, but I'd never had the opportunity to participate. And I know that a variety of trustees have attended this year and previous years, and I ran into the superintendent there, and I ran into a trustee there. And then, as happens in that room, I was like, what else can I do? So I am going south this weekend to a south part of the island, and my car is going to be filled with bags to one of the places, because I said, what else can I do? And it was great. Now we can take that table and we can fill it back. And so it just, it's amazing to read about it. It's amazing to have presentation, but it's absolutely something different to be in that room. And I know probably everybody in this room has had that opportunity to do that. And so I just wanted to just to shout it out and just recognize that amazing, that heart that goes to 1,700 people in our community and island and province. And then move on to trustee reports. And Trustee Maysack, you prepared an Indigenous Education Council report for us. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight from the report?
Thank you for asking. I actually would. Tonight, I'd really like to highlight the work that is being done with our school district in partnership with School District 72. The Chetty McDonald, it has been working with School District 72 as a support with their IEC terms of reference and the role of the Secretariat, which is quite lovely to know that they feel that it's nice to collaborate, and why reinvent the wheel if something's working. And so I love to feel the support that our team is offering another school district in doing this work. I also wanted to do a shout out for any of our Indigenous parents that would like to join the IEC on as the online community parent. They're still looking for one more parent, so hopefully we can find someone that would like to be the online community parent with the IEC. And we're really excited about June 6th being selected by the Indigenous Graduation Committee. The Indigenous graduation ceremony will be at the Florence Filberg, that has been confirmed, and apparently an MC has been secured as well, but I don't know if we were privy to the information of who that MC might be.
Maybe someone that left a little while ago.
I was wondering, yeah. So it's exciting that things are coming together for our students, since this will be our first Indigenous ceremony for all Indigenous learners in our district, which I think will fall back to the beautiful example that School District 72 Campbell River has been leading by doing an Indigenous graduation for some years now. I'm not too sure for how many, but I think it's a beautiful opportunity to celebrate our students. And our next IEC meeting is January 13th, and we are going to be having that at the KFN Band Hall for my next trustee that's in rotation.
Are there any questions for Trustee Mesa?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Leslie.
Sorry you can't see me. I'm actually flat on my back, but I'm sparing you all. I just wanted to add that SD 71 has a history of having Indigenous recognition ceremonies and graduation ceremonies over the past 2 decades, and just of late over the previous, I read since COVID, perhaps. I wasn't in the district at the time. The department and the amount of students became so large that we couldn't fit everybody in the room, and there could be other reasons as well. But I just want to lift up all those who are involved, especially the ISWs, in putting on these fantastic Indigenous recognition and graduation ceremonies over the years.
Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Trustee Leslie. And next we have Trustee Caton.
Yes, thank you, Chair Waite. I wrote this report because there's a couple of things that over my role as a trustee, I've been a number of learning conferences and looking at the themes and looking at the work that our school district is doing. I just wanted to share some of the recurring themes that all the conferences I've attended have been around, with truth and reconciliation, board governance that supports the student success and achievement, and the mental health and well-being of students and staff. Listening to Chief Phil Fontaine, Environment David Suzuki, and Indigenous advocate Cindy Blackstock at the CSBA, the work that we're doing in our district is really reflected in their conversations. And while there's still a lot to do, I will say this: our province, compared to other provinces, we are way ahead of the game in Indigenous education. And while there's work to do here, I think as a district, as a province, we need to be proud of that fact. The one thing that was really invigorating was listening to Paralympian Clara Hughes. She talked about student voice and how she was a law student when she was in high school, and how a teacher and how the support she had of educators lifted her up and to where she is a speaker now. And we all know that she won those medals at the Olympics. The one thing that I would like to draw attention to, and I think that as districts and as a province, we need to be aware of workshops discussing mental health and well-being, especially that when you look at that statistics show that 59% of education workers have experienced mental health issues, with 39% of them being on extended leave. And that was data that was given to us by professionals and the impact of mental health. And that goes to regarding how do we, in our work, look at incorporate staff well-being and trauma-informed concepts in the governance work that we do, support students and staff with all that's going on. We all know about the toxic poisoning crisis that was out there, and as our school districts now implement the naloxone kits in our schools, education and trauma abuse, we need to have those conversations. And the minister talked about childcare. We all know we need more childcare, and we hope to follow up on our words as she talked about childcare being a priority for the ministry. We know that money and financial wise, she hasn't quite given us that money yet. So we're going to hold her to her word on that one there. So I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on some of the conversations that we've had at our conferences and why it's so important for trustees to attend them as we, the work has changed. In my 20 years as a trustee, what happened 20 years ago, what happened today is totally different, and we need to educate ourselves as we move forward into that, in that role. And I would expect more, but in concept of time, I
Okay,
condensed it.
great. Are there any questions or comments, Mr. Trustee? If not, I have one.
Okay.
Would it be possible for you to share with us which of the speakers that you had the opportunity to listen to were at the Canadian School Board Association conference? And the reason I'm asking and is that in next year, the conference is in British Columbia, and many of us haven't been before. So just curious if it's an easy, if it's a quick.
Easy one. Okay. It's an easy one. Chief Phil Fontaine, environmentalist David Suzuki, Paralympian Claire Hughes, musician Fred Penner, entertainers, and Indigenous advocate Cindy Blackstock. In the past, we've had former Prime Minister Mr. Turner have speaking at our conferences. We've had astronaut, and my brain just went to space. Hatfield,
Tim Hatfield?
No, the guy that went to space, sorry. Hatfield.
Chris?
Yes, on that one there. So
Or something.
they bring in some really good, powerful speakers, and it's to do with students and student focus on that one there. So their speakers are a bit different than provincially because they have the provinces and territories that come to the conferences. So they tend to have that kind of higher caliber.
Great, thank you. All right, looking for a trustee to receive the trustee reports.
I'll move.
Trustee Aldinger had her hand up, so I'm going to get you the second.
Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley received the trustee reports as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by trustee Caton. Thank you. And all those in favor? And opposed? There's none opposed. Thank you. And for information, our next open committee of the whole meeting is January the 13th, 2026 at 7 o'clock here, and the topic is school growth plans. Let's see if I keep my agenda in order. Maybe I didn't. 2, 3. Okay. Next is the ad hoc policy committee board report. Trustee McConnell-Key.
I think we have a lot tonight. I won't say much because I think Candace beautifully captured the work done. But I think we're just looking forward to, actually, I will just say that I think we really were hoping to get to in the time that we had allotted to into the Gender-Based Violence Committee reports draft policy that was offered to the district. And I think that we're really looking forward to diving into that in the new year, and that the committee is meeting sort of prior to that to have some discussions as well. But we didn't get to it in our time because we're really grateful that we were able to work with staff as we met the timeline needed to be able to have the AP that will be before us, AP 167 tonight. So we had to decide whether that was going to be in policy or in administrative procedure, and the immediacy of that took precedence. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to as well our policy committee really looking at policy 13 around appeals and deciding whether that be better served by an overview of our belief around appeals to then not have such repetition between the appeals procedure and the appeals policy being very similar at this time. So that's sort of the work that we're at right now, still very much working with Scott Stinson, and really grateful for his fast-paced work in many ways in our district, but definitely in policy and procedure right now. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Would you like to move this?
Oh, sure. Oh, Recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley confirm that the ministry's requirement for a response to unexpected health emergencies policy will be fulfilled through an administrative procedure under the authority of the superintendent.
Seconded by trustee Maysack. Discussion?
Thank you. I have a quick question to the policy committee. With respect to the Minister of Education's comments at our academy and also BCSTA, with respect to the bringing forth some guidance on policy partnerships in the BCSTA as they launch a comprehensive policy review initiative, has the policy committee reached out to BCSTA about what that entails and how that's going to impact school districts as we do a policy review? Because if they're reinventing the wheel, I'm just wondering how that's going to impact our policy review. One of that conversation has started.
So can I ask you to hold that thought? Because we're just in the middle of this
Okay.
recommended motion. It wasn't a motion to receive the committee report, but it was to,
I can't, I got my glasses, I can't read, sorry.
oh no, sorry. But hold that thought.
Okay.
Somebody will circle back after. Are there any questions pertaining to this motion? Okay, all those in favor? And any opposed? And that's carried. Now, back to your question.
Can respond to that.
Wonderful.
The ad hoc policy committee at this time has not formally reached out to BCSTA regarding that work that is underway. Having said that, as current chair of that committee, Candace and I have certainly connected, and when we were at the BCSTA Academy, I had some conversations so that we have an understanding of where they're at and at what time it might be a best step for us to formally make sure that we, as you said, aren't reinventing the wheel and that we aren't. I would say that because Scott is working with us right now also, that it's important that we reach out and loop him in that ask as well. But by all means, I think makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Thanks.
Are you okay? Everyone okay? All right, so we will move on to the section regarding the Ad hoc Gender-Based Violence Committee Board Report, of which there's none. Trustee Aldinger, do you have anything to share?
I only wanted to add that for most of this school year, and the previous one the school year, we've been meeting at the old school board office, not the new one. So that's on Cumberland rather than Gideon's.
So you're indicating that the next meeting will likely be at the
Yes,
607 Cumberland Road site?
that's right. For anyone who's following that closely.
Okay. Thank you. Noted. All right. Seeing no questions about that change. If you'd like to move the motion.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley receive the committee reports as presented.
Seconded. Trustee Maysack. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. All right, it's 8:18 and we're moving into the decision items. Superintendent and Acting Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. I recognize that 10A and 10B are two distinct statutory right-of-ways, but I want to speak to both to just provide the context that in both cases, this is a statutory right-of-way that's required for our own capital projects in order for there to be hydro and telecommunications. With that in mind, we are putting a recommendation forward for 3 readings. And just as a reminder, that the only way that a board can acquire or dispose of property is through bylaw. Before a bylaw is passed, it needs to be given 3 distinct readings. And if the board is going to pass it tonight, it would need 3 distinct readings and would require unanimous approval in order to move past 2 readings. If it's not unanimous, but the majority of the board supports it, it would come back to the January board meeting for the 3rd reading. So just with that in mind, I'm not sure Susan will really need to confirm where you are at in the vote to ensure that if it is unanimous, we can proceed with those 3 readings of the bylaw.
And is it which motion in particular is unanimous?
All 3.
All 3?
Yeah. Well, the first two to be,
The
in
first
order
two.
to move to a third reading, the first two.
Were you putting your hand up to speak first?
I was going to say it's the first two, and I would like to move the motion if that's okay, in lieu
Okay.
of time. But I'll leave it up to you, Madam Chair, to see whether to proceed or not.
Please proceed.
Okay. That the Board of Education of School District 71, Comox Valley, pass all three readings of the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, Cumberland Community School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 in one meeting this date, December the 16th, 2025.
And seconder? Trustee McConnell-Keen. Any discussion? Any discussion?
On the readings, no.
Okay, just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, no, not on that. Yeah.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Susan, are you voting? Wonderful, thank you. I did too, so that was unanimous. And now, looking for someone to read the second motion. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Trustee Caton.
Now therefore it be resolved as the bylaw of the board that the board of enter into the statutory rights of way and grant the statutory rights of way in favor of BC Hydro and TELUS respectively in the forms required by BC Hydro and TELUS, subject to such amendments as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable and register the statutory rights of way against title to the property in the Land Title Office. Be it further resolved as a bylaw of the board that the Secretary Treasurer be and is hereby authorized on behalf of the board to execute and deliver the statutory rights of way in such forms and with such amendments thereto as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable, and the Secretary Treasurer be and is hereby authorized on behalf of the board to execute and deliver all related and ancillary documents required to complete the granting of the statutory rights of way in favor of BC Hydro and TELUS respectively on such terms and conditions as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable as witnessed by the signature of the Secretary Treasurer. This bylaw may be cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, Cumberland Community School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025, read a first time the 16th day of December 2025.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Mesa? Write this down. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's unanimous, and that's that one. And I'm going to look this way because I'm hoping that there's another trustee that would like to read this next shorter one.
And let's reading.
Allowed.
One of you may begin.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, Cumberland Community School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 during the December 16, 2025 regular board meeting, being a bylaw that provides BC Hydro and TELUS with a right-of-way associated with electrical and telecommunication distribution services to the property. Read a second time the 16th day of December 2025.
Thank you, Trustee Olinger. And seconder, Trustee McConnell-Keen. Any discussion? Those in favor? And that's unanimous and carried, or unanimous, it's not carried, not yet. And who
You can read it a third.
you would like to,
Like,
you're on
I
deck?
think I got it by now. So. That the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, Cumberland Community School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 during the December 16th, 2025 regular board meeting, being a bylaw that provides BC Hydro and TELUS with a right-of-way associated with electrical and telecommunication distribution services to the property, read a third time, passed and adopted this 16th day of December 2025.
And that's seconded by trustee Mysak. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. All motions to this bylaw were carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on, did you
Yeah,
indicate?
I just wanted to briefly mention, so the next statutory right-of-way is connected to the Vanier Childcare Center. Just want to also recognize that once statutory right-of-way has been passed, that the acting secretary treasurer will go to a notary and finish this process. But to get to this process, I just wanted to take 1 minute to acknowledge the expertise and the amount of work that goes into preparing the briefing note, the package, the legal interaction with legal, and the interaction with contractors. And so just really wanted to acknowledge the work that Molly and Jennifer have done to bring these statutory right-of-ways to the public board meeting. And so just recognizing my role really is to sign, and the expertise is all happening behind the scenes. So the briefing note here tonight is around the Child Care Center at Vanier, and it follows the similar process.
Great, thank you. And trustee Mysak, would you like to begin with the shorter one, or would you like to do the second longer one?
Doesn't matter to me.
Well,
I'll start it off.
okay, so trustee Mysak is moving this motion.
Yeah. That the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, pass all 3 readings of the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, George P. Vanier Secondary School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 in one meeting, this date, December 16th, 2025.
Seconder, please. Trustee Caton. Discussion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Trustee Caton, you like the long one.
Now therefore it be resolved as a bylaw of the board that the board enter into the statutory rights of way and grant the statutory rights of way in favor of BC Hydro and TELUS respectively in the forms required by BC Hydro and TELUS, subject to such amendments as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable and register the statutory rights of way against title to the property in the land office. Be it further resolved as the bylaw of the board that the Secretary Treasurer be and is hereby authorized on behalf of the board to execute and deliver the statutory rights of way in such forms and with such amendments thereto as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable, and the Secretary Treasurer may Secretary be and is hereby authorized on behalf of the board to execute and deliver all related and ancillary documents required to complete the granting of the statutory rights of way in favor of BC Hydro and TELUS, respectively, on such terms and conditions as the Secretary Treasurer may in their discretion consider advisable, as witnessed by the signature of the Secretary Treasurer. This bylaw may be cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, George P. Vanier Secondary School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025, read a first time the 16th day of December 2025.
Thank you. And trustee Leslie, would you like to second this motion? Great, thank you. Seeing no hands raised for discussion, all those in favor? And that's unanimous, that's carried.
I can read the next one.
Okay, please go ahead, trustee Mysak.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, George P. Vanier Secondary School Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 during the December 16th, 2025 regular board meeting, being a bylaw that provides BC Hydro and TELUS with a right-of-way associated with electrical and telecommunication distribution services to the property, read a second time on the 16th day of December 2025.
Seconder, please. Thank you, trustee McConnell-Keen. Seeing no hands raised for discussion, all those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. And who would like to? Thank you, Trustee McConnell-Keen.
The Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, adopt the bylaw cited as School District Number 71, Comox Valley, Georges P. Vanier Secondary School, Electrical and Telecommunication Distribution Right-of-Way Bylaw 2025 during the December 16th, 2025 regular board meeting, being a bylaw that provides BC Hydro and TELUS with a right-of-way associated with electrical and telecommunication distribution services to the property. Read a third time, passed and adopted the 16th day of December 2025.
Trustee Masek. Seeing no hands raised with questions, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. And carried. I just want to ready. We've lost a trustee. She'll be right back. Okay. We will carry on. Thank you all for your reading and support of these two bylaws to support the work of our capital projects. So next, if I'm on the right page of my agenda, which I believe what I have next is the 2025-26 district calendar amendment. Is that where everybody else is? Yep. Okay, wonderful. Associate Superintendent Jay Dixon.
Okay, if I just pop up here, so I'm not.
As long as the magic camera moves to have you, thank you very much. Now all of your colleagues are going, okay, he wanted to stay there, so.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to, what you have in front of you is a briefing note as promised a couple months ago regarding proposed amendment to our district calendar, the addition of May 15th as a non-instructional day of Indigenous focused learning. Just wanted to start off by thanking the calendar committee. It was a pleasure working with them and the variety of perspectives around it. So thank you to the Comox Valley Principals and Vice Principals Association, our CDTA, QP, IMPACT, and our trustee representative, and also our staff who put a lot of work in behind the scenes, calculating numbers and minutes and all those goodies in our community survey. As a reminder, on October 20th, our calendar committee was reestablished to talk about the July School Act Amendment and the assignment of a non-instructional day. On October 28th, our board in this room here approved the recommendation to move forward with the process of amending the district calendar. And then from October 29th to November 27th, we put out there an online feedback opportunity. It was circulated to gather input, a great amount of input. I believe a few years ago when we put our calendar out, we had about 30-ish respondents. So we had some feedback from about 121 responses. Our calendar committee reconvened and went through all of the responses in detail, and also had a presentation from Associate Heslop about what the intentionality was for the day. And there were concerns. The primary concern that we spent most of our time discussing was daycare challenges. And since that meeting, we have connected with our district principal of early learning, who's been reaching out to all the daycare providers within our region to discuss creative solutions, what their operating hours will be for that day. That will be continued work that we do if this is approved moving forward. Really, what we propose is that unanimously the committee proposes that we move forward with amending our school calendar. And open to any questions, comments?
Okay, great, thanks.
If I could just add to Associate Superintendent Dixon's presentation, just really want to express an understanding of the concern for disruption to a school week with the childcare requirements that come as a result of a Pro-D Day. I also wanted to acknowledge that a number of the themes that did come through, wherever they came from, that some of the negative responses really were specific to the content of that day and the intentionality of focusing on Indigenous learning. And I just wanted to share, while recognizing the validity and the impact on families around the disruption of the school week and the requirements for childcare, that I want to be unapologetic in the commitment that we have as a district to continue working towards reconciliation, that it is an ongoing process, that myself as a learner needs to continue to develop a deeper understanding. And I think I can speak on behalf of most folks in the system, and that we are committed towards that deeper understanding. And the way that we are going to change outcomes for all students in our district is by understanding more deeply Indigenous ways of knowing and doing. What's good for our Indigenous learners is good for all learners. And so I just wanted to be unapologetic in making sure that I'm really clear around the vision and intentionality and direction the district is going in regards to expanding our capacity as adults in the system to better support all of our learners that we are privileged to serve.
Are there any other comments or questions before we move to the motion?
The only thing I would perhaps share in regards to the childcare piece, just because I think it's worthwhile to say, is that I'm grateful that our district principal of early learning is also sitting on the Early Years Collaborative at this time, because the challenge not only being childcare, but that a lot of nonprofit societies, registered charities who provide childcare are currently, many of them are moving towards trying to follow professional development then for their fields on the same days that the school district does. So the challenge is they're often following what's happening with the school district, and then the childcare piece becomes even more of a barrier for families. So it might be an opportunity then, thus, like through her work with the Early Years Collaborative, to see whether there's some partnership in finding opportunities there. I just know that if we continue to follow the same model, then we're going to run out of resources anywhere if we're all learning on the same days and such. So it's just something that I think's come up, and I'm grateful that she's a part of that council and collaborative to hopefully find some solutions and opportunities.
Mr. Eldinger?
Yeah. I have a quick question. I'm 100% in favor of including this day in our calendar year. I have a curiosity around whether, and I wouldn't imagine it's the calendar committee that looks at this, but whether by adding another professional development day, whether we are still meeting our instructional minutes or instructional hours, not minutes, for this school year, just because it does remove a full day.
Yes, it does. That's thanks also to an agreement we have with the CDTA over the amount of minutes per day. So we have run the calculations. We can fit this in with no additional minutes added, thanks to our work with the CDTA. It was basically many hours of counting specific school schedule minutes, cross-checking with School Act, and also our teacher's contract. So we squeaked it in there. Great question, thank you.
Peyton?
So thank you. I have a question with respect to supporting those students and families. Many of our students, as you know, we provide a lunch and a breakfast for them at the school. They're now going to be off for 4 days instead of 3 days. Is there any thought of maybe reaching out to some of those families that may need that extra support for that one day that their children are not in school, and supporting them in those areas that we do in the school with some food vouchers or some food or something like that? Just a question.
Yeah, appropriate. We actually had a conversation this afternoon about upon if this is approved, In the new year, our principals working within their newsletters and their school community to reach out to see who may need daycare support if arrangements haven't been made, and also explore pieces around food programs. Some of our students there. We're going to do everything we can to make this interruption in families' lives more comfortable. Yeah, and we have heard from some daycare providers that have committed to staying open on that day, which is great.
Trustee Mesa, you have the final question?
Yeah, I actually just would like to thank the group and the team for going above and beyond and really trying to do our best to navigate this by adding this partway through the year. This is uncomfortable for everyone, but I believe that we're on the right path and that this is a very important work for all of us. And I'd like to just move the motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley approve the amended 2025-2026 district calendar as presented.
Trustee Altinger. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we're going to move to business services. And then after this, I'm going to be asking for a motion to extend the meeting before we move into the district quarterly progress report. We have our statement of financial information report. We have our Director of Finance, Candace Hilton, here. Director Hilton?
So the Statement of Financial Information is a statutory report. It's required under the Financial Information Act and is due by December 31st of each year for school districts. The Act also indicates that this information should be made publicly available and will be available on our website this week. The report is included on page 94. So in addition to the financial statements that the board approved back in September, you also will find the schedule of remuneration and expenses for employees with salaries exceeding $75,000. As well, there is a list of suppliers paid in excess of $25,000. The recommended motion tonight is that the board receive the report for information as presented, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from trustees? I will say it's very important that this transparency piece, and after reading them year after year, there's always something new to uncover in the way how the information is provided. And I also want to thank your team for this work. Trustee Caton?
I'm going to move the motion, please.
Right.
That the Board of Education of School District 71 Comox Valley receive the Statement of Financial Information for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025 as presented.
And seconded by Trustee McConnell-Keene. Thank you. Further opportunity for questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried. And I'm looking for a trustee to move a motion to extend the meeting by up to 30 minutes.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you, Trustee Caton. A seconder for that, please. Thank you, Trustee McConnell-Keene. See no hands in discussion. All those in favor? And there's no opposed. Thank you. And next, we have the district quarterly progress report for fall.
Yeah, so I'll just introduce this report briefly. The report has quite a number of pages. It is a quarterly report, so this report, while delivered in the December meeting, is reflective of the time period of September, October, and November. By no means is it a comprehensive account of everything that's occurred. It is more of a high-level update. I also want to acknowledge that when we talk about progress as a district, like the center of our universe is the classroom and the work that happens at school. So these are just some of the work that's happening behind the scenes to support our reason for being, which is learning in the classroom. So it just shares with the intention of improving communication from the school board office. It speaks a little bit more around the values that have been articulated around transparency and accountability of those functions. And so there are reports from a number of the departments and functions that are supporting the work of schools.
And before I open the floor to questions or comments, I would like to extend my appreciation to all of the staff for pulling this information together so thoughtfully, and much of it is work that we know happens, but we don't know enough about that it happens. There's never enough time in a regular meeting for departments or team leads or leadership to share the kind of information that has been thoughtfully articulated in this report. I appreciate the challenges section and looking forward to see the challenges section and how it evolves in terms of over a year or a 5-year period for people looking back, and appreciation for the alignment with the strategic plan. Because as the superintendent said, our work is centered on students, and much of the report speaks of that. And there's the layer of the report that speaks to all of the intricacies of all of the pieces that it takes to do the work, centering on students and students in classrooms. And I'd like to open it up to the floor for trustees to see if you have any questions or specific questions regarding an area of the report or a comment at this time.
Fabulous. I like to see and to read in depth.
Trustee Maysack?
One of the things that's been a hot topic, and I just was wondering for a bit more specifics, is the EA positions. And I was wondering how many EA positions we've actually filled since we filled all of them. I'm curious to how many all was.
So you're looking at page 12?
Page 12 or 177.
Okay, great.
Where it talks about challenges, and it's been an ongoing struggle. And so I'm thrilled to hear that we have got some new staff on board.
Yeah, I will have to double check. It's over 200. I believe it's 218 educational assistants, but recognizing, one, I need to confirm that number, and two, the good news is that those full positions have been filled and that we are still short casuals. So we often struggle with replacements. So we still have a shortage of the casual educational assistant positions, but well over 200 educational assistants in our district this year.
Feeling we have 227.
Oh,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you. All right, is there a trustee that would like to move receipt of the report? Trustee Maysack?
The Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley received the Fall 2025 Progress Report as presented.
Seconder, please. Trustee Aldinger? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. And now we're moving on to the revised AP 167, unexpected health emergencies.
So this returns us to an earlier agenda topic from the Ad hoc Policy Committee. The Ministry of Education has asked that during this fall that every district has a policy or administrative procedure that's reflective of a response to unexpected health emergencies, specifically and directly connect to the AEDs and naloxone kits at every school. So we took an existing defibrillators, AP 167, and really have enhanced that. So you can see There's both the new 167 and the old. It's a substantive rewrite, but wanting to not just add and to make that change. So that puts us in compliance with the ministry, and we do have those pieces in place at every school. So in advance of the AP, those pieces were approved.
Trustee Caton?
Yes, thank you. I have a question with respect to the naloxone kits that would be available at the schools. We know that the ministry and the government provides the ones with needles for free. We also know that the sprays are over $300, but we also know that people don't like needles. Like, they're quite on that one there. And I'm wondering if our district will be having both at the high schools, or what kit will you be having at the high schools, and what's available for those who may not want to use the needles if they have to. So I'm just wondering, what will we have available, knowing that there's a cost of over $300 for those sprays that we are now required to pay on our own.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know the specifics of what's in our naloxone kits, so I will have to return to that answer at our next board meeting.
Okay. Trustee McCallaghan?
Only because this is related, and I think it was really worthwhile information that we learned. Specific to that I found out a lot of people aren't aware is that if naloxone kits are, if naloxone kits have expired materials, that you can take them and only the expired materials just for free will be, so they can still use, I think it was 50% of the kit, and only their expired materials will be changed. And I didn't understand that every pharmacy would do that free of charge. And I just thought that was really worthwhile information that a lot of people wouldn't know when something's expired, whether it can still be reused in some way. So I just thought that was interesting. I'm adding it in, sorry.
Would like to move the motion. Go ahead, Trustee Caton.
Okay, that the Board of Education of School District Number 71, Comox Valley, received the revised Administration Procedure 167 for information.
Seconder, please. Trustee Maysack. And all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next is the revised AP 212, Early French Immersion, for Associate Superintendent Vivian Collier.
So yeah, on page 197 of your your agenda package, you'll see the briefing note, which gives you a bit of background around the update to the AP. With kindergarten registration for French immersion, we want to continue to prioritize siblings of students who are currently in our schools for French immersion, and then find a more equitable approach for remaining seats to determine who will get those. And so we would like to move to lottery for that. And so the recommendation is to receive the update as presented, and just curious if there are any questions.
Any questions from trustees for this change? Trustee Caton.
So thank you. I'd just like to have more clarification how the lottery will work in the process for doing it. Because when I was reading that, I understand the lottery, but just the process and how it will actually work in real time, real life.
Well, so our administrators, and we have one here, a principal from one of our French immersion schools, but for the two elementary schools, the administrators, we get together and put the names into a pot and just pull them out one by one till all the seats are full, basically. So we'll make sure that we have 2 people at least working on it. But, and I've done this practice in the past as well in other districts. So basically that will be the process.
I'd like to move the motion. I'd also like to thank you for this work and the increasing the equity for people in our community to get their children into our program. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but we also want to also prioritize keeping our families together. So I feel like this is a really positive change. I'd like to move that the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley receive the revised administrative procedure 212 for information.
Thank you. And seconded, please, Trustee Clayton. Thank you. All those in favor? Or did you have a question, Trustee Eldinger?
I do actually have a question.
Yeah, wonderful. This is a perfect time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have two questions. One is whether given that we have a greater interest in early French immersion than capacity at this point, whether we're considering expanding our early French immersion. So that's question number one. And then the second one is, when making revisions to an administrative procedure like this, which impacts, I guess, parents almost more than like the educators themselves, do we reach out to like our parent communities at those schools at all to, I mean, not to question the goal of equity, but rather for feedback in terms of the path to achieve equity?
For the first question, yeah, a few years ago, we actually added a cohort to kindergarten. And so when we add more students in another cohort, we really have to see how it rolls out over the years and impacts the whole system, meaning the French immersion program and the schools that those programs are in, but also how it impacts other schools and their enrollment. A few years ago, we did add an extra cohort at Rob Road, and it's quite tight there now with that extra cohort. Have we thought about adding more? Yes, that is a question that we have, and it's going to be part of the conversations around cross-enrollment and cross-boundary, generally speaking. So it will be included as a topic within that. And then your other question, we have a French Advisory Council that is aware of what our practices are. And we also have the DPACs working with the principals. So there are conversations that happen about registration. And it has been a question in the past amongst parents about how do we equitably get the spaces filled rather than doing the timeline, whoever gets in there first. I think many more parents are interested in this lottery as being more equitable. Yeah. But ideally, yes, if we could get every child who wants to be in French immersion in there, that would be great. And so it is something that we're looking at.
Any other questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Now moving on to board business, unfinished business. This is a response to proposed CUPE after-school child care partnership. The superintendent and acting secretary treasurer. I'm not sure what hat you have on right now.
Sure either. But I will say it's interesting to sit before you with a page and a half briefing note to try and capture some of the work that's been done since CUPE 439 presented to trustees in May. There's a significant amount of work to ensure that as we work towards a district-operated childcare or before and after school care, that it is not at the cost or expense of the K-12 functions. When we consider that, not only do we need to ensure that a model is financially viable, but that the additional tasks, whether it be financial reporting, administration, conflict resolution, that we have the capacity as a system to work towards being able to have a sustainable model. With that in mind, there's a significant amount of work that's gone into looking. There are other districts who have engaged in this, there's lots of learning. I also want to acknowledge that there are sentiments of provincial direction around childcare that we haven't yet heard clarity. And so I've also appreciated Local 439's patience as we as we walk two roads almost that are parallel, which is around our own district's readiness to engage in a childcare pilot and provincial direction that comes from the Ministry of Education and Childcare. So with that in mind, the recommendation that I'm making tonight for consideration by the board is to continue to support the ongoing work of developing a cohesive, comprehensive business plan that really can articulate clearly and this information brought back to the board for final approval around continuing to work towards that childcare pilot. There's also a number of variables around we want to ensure that we continue strong relationships with the third-party childcare providers that we currently have. We have some potential retirement with potential sites, but there's so many variables that it's a non-specific recommendation. It's not a specific site at this time. So it really is bringing back, recognizing that we had made a commitment in May to CUPE 439 that in the fall of this year that we would respond. And so the recommendation is that we continue to develop with partnering with Local 439 to develop a district operated before and after school childcare pilots. So that's the recommendation, just acknowledging that there continues to be multiple conversations happening in different places that are connected to our own specific local pilot.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments to the superintendent? Trustee, was
That
that,
make the motion and then we can discuss.
we've been doing it multiple
I
ways.
know. I know.
You go ahead and make the
All right.
motion, and then if
keep it
there's any
rolling.
opportunity, then we can carry on.
All right, that the Board of Education of School District Number 71 Comox Valley approve proceeding in collaboration with CUPE Local 439 to develop a district-operated before and after-school childcare pilot, and that the superintendent be authorized to take all necessary steps to obtain licensing, establish fees and operating procedures, and enter into any required agreements to support the pilot and proceed subject to licensing and a business case that demonstrates that district-operated childcare will not negatively impact K-12 operations.
Is there a seconder? Second. Thank you, Trustee Caton. And now I'm going to open up the floor again to questions. Trustee Caton.
So thank you. It was interesting. I like the motion. I like we're having this conversation. When I became a trustee, it was Ministry of Education, now we're Ministry of Education and Childcare. So our roles and our responsibilities have evolved. I find that the financial compensation from the Ministry of Education and Childcare to support these initiatives is lacking, for a better word. The minister at our conference did highlight that this is one of her goals, is to ensure that childcare is available in all school districts from birth to grade 12. I'm just saying that because that's our goal. That was birth to grade 12, but that birth to that 5 after school. And I think we need to hold her accountable to her words to ensure that we are supporting the students and families of our district and become one of those pilot programs. We had a presentation of the valuable work that other school districts have done to bring that childcare into their school districts and how it supported families. So for me, I'm glad that we're doing this because childcare is a necessity, but I also am conscious of the fact that we have not been financially compensated, financially, and the words just went out of my brain. Supported by the ministry to follow through on their initiatives, ensuring that each school district has daycare for all their schools. So as we move forward, maybe a letter, or as you move forward, a letter of advocacy from our board, once again reminding the minister of her words, and including maybe our 2 MLAs in that conversation to ensure that she follows through with her promise to ensure that all school districts have that daycare within their school districts that is funded by the government.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Caton. I do acknowledge that, I think I'm getting close to 30 years in education, and we often see an expanding mandate, but not equal to the resources. Expanding mandates require additional resources. Just want to point that. I think that, we recognize the importance of childcare. We support childcare, and I think one of the other attentions is that we also want district-run before and after-school childcare to be reflective of our values. We also have a district principal of early learning and childcare, whose funding at this point runs out at the end of the school year. So even the administration that we've had 3 years to support early learning, as well as some of the responsibilities of administering even third-party childcare, that commitment for that funding is no longer there. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that even as we embark in this pilot program with an expanded mandate, we're actually seeing a reduction of resources to support it.
Thank you. I will add that it feels in many ways that the work is so important, but the funding is so important that goes with it. It feels like we're between a rock and a hard place. We want the children that are on school property being supported through childcare to have the same experience as they will in our K-12 system. And I'm hopeful that there's some solutions that are coming forward, but I know that they won't come forward unless we advocate for them. Trustee McConnell-Keen?
Yeah, I just think I'm grateful that even though it's a bit funny that we're going at the same time as things are coming down, if you will, or coming our way, I also feel it's really timely in terms of the funding that is in place right now through childcare operating funding. And also, I mean, if I may, like, childcare is in this community right now absolutely profitable. So because of the extensive wait lists that exist and the 1 in 5 children, I mean, it's 1 in 9 for certain ages and others. So I think by all means right now, there is less risk than there could be to be going forward. And while the funding is in place for childcare new spaces and for maintenance grants right now, I think it's really great that this is before us right now. And I look forward to, what it will mean to QP by all means as well.
Other hands, all those in favor of the motion? And that is carried, and I know if Trustee Leslie opposes, you will share that with us. There is no new business. We do have 2 pieces of correspondence, and I'll speak to the first one first. In the summer, the Vancouver Island Health Authority, or Island Health, made a decision to remove program lead positions in place on Vancouver Island, and that affected our school district. There were 2 in our region. When trustees became aware of it, we recognized that that wasn't acceptable, and we wanted that to be reversed. Before we had the opportunity to write a letter to share our displeasure, the Ministry of Health directed Island Health to reverse that decision. And so this letter is acknowledging the reversal, but also acknowledging the impact of the initial decision. And that is the first letter. And the second letter is the letter that I believe the board passed at the last board meeting, or the board passed a motion to send a letter to the Minister of Education and Childcare with the comprehensive report from the Gender-Based Violence Committee, including the recommendations and the action plan. And while we were at the School Trustee Academy recently, several of us had the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Education and Childcare and provide the documents to the Chief of Staff. And so they knew this letter was coming. They knew this letter was coming with the package. And it was wonderful to be able to have the opportunity to speak with the minister at Academy and talk to the minister about the work that's happening in our district. We don't usually share that much detail about correspondence, but in this case, thought it appropriate. And we are now at the public question period to the board, and I'm going to see if anything has come in electronically. Nothing's come in on my phone, so I was guessing that there wasn't anything, but it's always nice to ask. And then just looking to the public that are here tonight, wondering if any members of the public and valued members of our school community that are here have any questions. And we have Sean from the CDTA. Thank you for being the first one to raise your hand.
I have a few questions. I'll ask one and then we'll give off a chance for somebody else to ask.
Thank you.
So Sean Holland from the Comox District Teachers Association. In hearing the statistic about how many educational workers are struggling with mental health concerns, I'm wondering what steps do you see the board taking in supporting educational workers considering the extent of these mental health concerns?
Thank you for the question. I'm going to turn to the superintendent to see if he has an immediate response.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And, you know, I think, you know, I'm appreciative of conversations that senior staff and CDTA have had around occupational fatigue, around concerns around very complex student behavior. I'm grateful for the contributions that are being made right now in partnership around a wellness committee and a wellness lead at every school. But quite frankly, I think that we are, as a public organization, and this is not just, I think I'm speaking beyond just School District 71, that public education is getting close to a crossroads where we're going to have to think differently about some of the ways in which we do our work, because the system is thinly spread. And I think we are seeing more and more of not just staff, but reflecting what's happening in society and with our students around really profound emotional and psychological needs. I think the commitment too, from a leadership piece that I would make to all teachers, is that when wellness becomes another thing that we're expecting everybody to go and do, and it's outside of work, that we are failing as system leaders. And part of our work is around creating a climate where wellness is a part of the way we do our work together. I think about, I also think, and maybe I'll just use a personal vignette as I've engaged as an acting secretary treasurer over the last 4 months. Part of wellness at work is having the tools to do your work really well. And I think that we also, as leaders in the organization, need to continue to equip our educators with the tools needed to meet the complex demands of today. And I think that it's a really complex problem that's not being answered sufficiently tonight, but just acknowledging that if we just hope it goes away, we will have fewer and fewer people willing to be here to do the work. And so it is time to think about how do we do things different. And another piece with that, and maybe it's December and it's reflective, but I think when I think about the work that CDTA is doing in terms of advocacy for the wellness of staff, but doing it in such a way where, and I would say this on behalf of our partners at this time, all willing to be messy, to leverage different outcomes and to see a different partnering in such a way that we're trying to support each of us in the work that we've been called to do in the system. So I think the commitment is continued professional learning, continuing to address where we're at right now in real terms, acknowledging, often in superintendent comments, I'll share the highlights, but there are also misses, and there are, I think, even when we look at the intentionality of the quarterly report, there's specific challenges. It's time to acknowledge that there are challenges in the system, and I think that is actually all part of moving towards a better hope of wellness.
Thank you. Is there another?
May I speak through the chair to this point as well? just thinking also around for all staff, not just CDTA, but QB, referring back to the equity scan and that all staff have participated in this work and have all been advised. There are that the emotions that come up in deep conversations and challenging conversations, that's normal. Normalizing that part of the process as well. And I know that I really spoke quickly over that, but that slide is not just a slide. There's many different ways from here that are highlighted in order to share ways of normalizing the painful feelings that one has and taking care of oneself. So I wanted to share that because that was an opportunity to possibly create more mental strain and more pain for some of your members. But deep thought went into how can we mitigate harm when we're talking about really difficult things. So that's one example. I'd like to have more examples like that throughout. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Looking to see if there are any other questions from the public before I circle back to Sean. Seeing no eye contact. Okay, just checking. Maybe somebody was busy writing. Please go ahead, Sean.
My next question, seeing the varied expense amounts in the financial report and various members who have claimed those amounts from all aspects of our educational community, I'm wondering what's typically covered under those expenses, because it varies from as little as $22 up to $33,000, I think was the highest. So I'm wondering what all can be claimed. I guess maybe most curiously about teachers. I've never known that we as teachers could claim expenses.
So is that a question regarding the Sophie report? I just was checking.
Yes.
Is that what you said? Because I didn't hear that first piece, so sorry. Okay, Superintendent?
Yeah, I
Acting
think to
Secretary
provide a
Treasurer?
more fulsome answer, I think we'll direct that to Director Hilton.
Sure, great question. Expenses typically are defined to include such things as travel, if they're attending conferences, membership fees, sometimes tuition. It can depend on the employee group if they're entitled to relocation. Sometimes it might be amounts paid to a third party on behalf of an employee, so not necessarily paid to them directly. I don't know if that helps. I don't have specific examples, but generally that's what it would be for.
Thank you for that. And is there time for one more?
Yes, we have 7 minutes left.
In the report in terms of how we're doing, one of the points was made by Inclusive Ed and their challenges is that we have 2 school psychologist positions that are vacant. So I was wondering if there were any insights into why specifically we are not able to attract school psychologists when it commented how we were able to fill all the other skilled positions. So I'm wondering why not school psychologists, especially considering the important role they play.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. And if there's anything you need to add when I'm done, please feel free to jump in at the end, Associate Heslop. So school psychologists are compensated as teachers. They're teachers within the system. It's a specialty that is hard to find, hard to recruit, and this is a province-wide issue around school psychologists. So one of the pieces that we have going for us is the Comox Valley. It recruits well on behalf of the district, and the school psychologist piece is a provincial shortage right now, a very significant one. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Joy. I also wanted to acknowledge, though, that as a result, right now we are still investing in third-party private psych ed assessments so that we are still serving a similar number of students we would be if they were in-house. So right now, while those positions are still posted and unfilled, we are using resources to ensure that psych eds are still occurring. Did you want to?
You touched on most of my points, and I do recall a number of districts complaining of the same concerns. It is a very specialized position, and we will be grateful when we have a full complement.
Thank you for that.
Seeing no further questions, would like to move adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded. Tina Connell Keen. All those in favor?